All right, we are getting more and more into photosynthesis. The main component of photosynthesis in the light reaction is light energy. Light is a form of electromagnetic radiation. Right here, I have electromagnetic spectrum. Um, it is a type of energy that can travel in the form of waves. Other kinds of electromagnetic radiation that we encounter in our daily lives include radio wave, microwave, infrared, gamma ray, X-ray, and ultraviolet. So what we are seeing right now is visible spectrum, the sunlight that make us see things. So all these together, they are different types of electromagnetic waves, and every electromagnetic wave have a particular wavelength. That means how, like in this example, this is a longer wavelength. One wavelength is just like from here to here. And so at different wavelength, they have different frequency and also different energy. The longer the wavelength, the lower the frequency and the lower energy. If you have shorter wavelength, you have higher frequency and higher energy. So here for plants, they need to, as I mentioned, light has energy, and plants and some other photosynthetic organisms, they harvest those light energy to make sugar. And how do they harvest those light energy? They need to have tools, and their tools are called photosynthetic pigments, which actually are just chemical compounds that reflect out some certain color of light and absorb some color of light. For example, you can see that plants are green because they reflect the green color out, so our eyes can see the green color. But actually, the chlorophyll absorb other colors of light. They absorb blue light and red light, and they use that two colors of light to get energy and then drive photosynthesis. There are many different forms of photosynthetic pigments as I'm showing you here. There are chlorophyll, there are bacterial chlorophyll which are similar to just normal chlorophyll. You have carotenoid and phycobilin, and different of them are in different organisms, and each of them can absorb light at different wavelength, like in this spectrum. So chlorophyll has A, B, C, D, and F. In chlorophyll A, it absorbs more of the blue light and also the red light. Chlorophyll B, similar things. Carotenoid is more like blue and green, and phycoerythrin is more like something in the middle here. Phycocyanin is more like the yellow things. And bacterial chlorophyll is very special. Some of them can absorb infrared, which can be penetrated very deep in the water. And organisms like some bacteria that live in the depth in the lower sea, they can use infrared as an energy to do photosynthesis. This is very amazing, right? Different organisms live in different habitats because they have different tools to utilize different sources of energy. This is the structure of chlorophyll. They will have chlorophyll A, this one, chlorophyll B, and bacterial chlorophyll. They are pretty much very similar except here. Chlorophyll A has a metal not metal, it's CH3 group, methyl group, all right, and this one is aldehyde group in chlorophyll B, and for bacterial chlorophyll, these are the differences, all right, but the main thing is they have the hydrophobic chain right here, the chain of carbon. This one will stuck into the membrane and will stick this ring out, and this ring is the key to absorb the light energy. This one is called porphyrin ring. It has the magnesium ion in the middle connected by 4 nitrogen. This 4 nitrogen bind to magnesium, and this ring allow electron to travel freely. Electron will not bind tightly to chlorophyll. That's make the chlorophyll special because electron can move around, and then electron from chlorophyll can be moved out into the electron transport chain that we'll talk about in the next video probably. So chlorophyll is the main ingredient, the main electron, the main photosynthetic pigment for photosynthesis. It's involved in electron transition and redox reaction. All right. So the other two kinds of photosynthetic pigment is, the first one is carotenoid. It's composed of membrane. This one, not membrane, the hydrophobic chain of carbon, and this one will not dissolve in water. It will need to stick into the membrane only, and it will dissolve only in oil. And the example of carotenoid is carotene in carrot. It gives the orange color for the carrot. It also has 2 rings of carbon here. It absorbs energy, but the energy that it absorbs is not as good for doing photosynthesis. It just absorbs some light energy and transfer that energy to chlorophyll. And the for this reason, it's called an accessory pigment, not the main one. Another function of carotenoid is the photoprotection. Sometimes the light from the sun is too strong, the light intensity. The plants will need some sunscreen to protect themselves from too much of the sun. So carotenoid is the sunscreen. And finally, the bilin pigments or phycobilin. This is another pigment. It is water soluble, and therefore it can be in stroma or cytoplasm of some bacteria. It can transfer the light energy to chlorophyll. Here I have some example of the algae called chlorella. This experiment, the author extract the pigment from chlorella and other plants or other algae. They do not have only one pigment. They need to have many of them. Why? Because each of them has different structure. Each of them has different properties that can receive the light, different light energy, and different of them can have a different property into transferring energy or giving an electron. So they need to have many of them to be able to function. All right. So in the past, how do scientists discover which pigment absorbing what light energy and producing a different results of light reaction? So as you may recall from our photo electromagnetic spectrum in the very first slide, The absorption spectrum in the red right here is actually the light spectrum that shine into the earth. You have this much, but actually not all of them can be utilized by chlorophyll. And how do we know that? In several hundred years ago, not several, like 100 or 200 years ago, and a scientist named Ingerman, he used this technique to gain a knowledge. So what he has Spirogyra. Remember, Spirogyra is an algae that has a spiral shaped chloroplast right here, and he shine the white light through a prism that split light into different colors. And he has the Spirogyra here, and next to Spirogyra he has the aerobic bacteria. This bacteria will produce oxygen once it gets some light. Once it get no, I'm sorry. This bacteria will grow better with oxygen. So Spirogyra will produce oxygen for them. So in different color of light, he can detect which color will give more oxygen. So in this picture, the blue and the red light give more oxygen than the other wavelength of the light. So how it works? How the chlorophyll can give energies? So in general, in chlorophyll, like I mentioned in the structure of the chlorophyll, that electron can move around, right? This is how it works. Once the electron receive an energy, the energy of the electron will go up very high into the excited state. And if um, if electron receive a blue light, energy from blue light, it will get higher energy compared to once it gets the energy from the red light. If it receives an energy from the blue light, this energy will be dissipated as the heat, and the electron will be get into the lower energy. We call it lowest excited state. And during this, it will need to go back to its ground state because it's not very stable at this point. So it gives the energy into 4 different ways. The first one is fluorescence. It will emit some fluorescent color. It will be heat, or it can transfer that energy into other molecules, or it can use that energy for doing photosynthesis. We call it photochemistry. All right. So different molecules of chlorophyll or pigment can be combined together to form photosystem. And this chlorophyll molecules is embedded in the protein, and we call the whole thing's photosystem. And in the thylakoid membrane, you have a lot of photosystem that can do works. And how it works? So you have the light energy, and the first molecules receive the energy. If these molecules do not have enough energy to do photosynthesis, it will transfer that energy into another molecules. And once the molecule is getting enough energy, it will transfer that energy to a chlorophyll that is stay in the place called, not the place is it's not actually the place, but we call it reaction center. In this reaction center, these chlorophyll molecules will give up its electron. This electron from this chlorophyll will be given to an electron acceptor. We call this place as reaction center. This is the electron transfer, and this is the energy transfer. All right, and how it works into the structure. So this is the photosystem. You have several hundreds of pigments that receive energy. Many pigments, we call them antenna complex. And in the antenna complex, there will be energy transfer. And once it has enough energy, it will transfer that energy into a chlorophyll in a reaction center. In a reaction center, the chlorophyll in these molecules will transfer electron through an electron acceptor. This part is electron transfer. Here is the simple equation. The chlorophyll, once it gets the energy from photon, we call HV right here, and the chlorophyll will get excited and it will transfer that electron to an acceptor A, and A will become reduced because it gain more electron. So in the bottom line, photosystem containing two parts, antenna complex and reaction center. In photosynthesis, there are two kinds of photosystem, photosystem 1 and photosystem 2. Each of them has different pigments molecules in their antenna complex, and their reaction center need different form of different energy from the different light wavelength. There are photosystem 1 and photosystem 2. Photosystem 1 need a light energy at 700 nanometers. Photosystem 2 need an energy at 680 nanometers. Alright, I will stop this video right here and we will continue with electron transport chain in the next video.